everybody and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be a bit of an interesting one. I've actually decided to do a little bit of a paper crafting sort of art. Now this is definitely still illustration, so it's not too different to what I usually do, but yeah. So basically what I'm doing is something which I have done a couple times previously, and I'd like to call it sort of 3D art, I guess. Basically I use these little foam square things to add sort of 3D effects in my artworks so that it has sort of like different layers and stuff, and yeah, I think the results look pretty cool when I do this, and yeah, I can't wait to show you guys what I'm doing. So as you can see, I'm actually sketching and inking out digitally. So I actually decided to do this because I wanted to print it out a few different times so that I could get those layers. I thought, you know, usually I do draw it in different sort of parts traditionally, but I actually wanted to give the sort of digital look a go because I could just easily print out multiple ones, especially if I make an accident where I cut somewhere where I'm not supposed to cut. I can just print out another one and it should be good to go. So as for the concept of this drawing, I actually decided to try and go on the more whimsical side. I felt like a lot of my art has been a bit more literal lately, and I kind of just wanted to do something sort of goofy and I don't know, different, I guess, more of a fantasy kind of vibe. So yeah, I actually decided to draw some kids and their pet dog riding a paper aeroplane through the night sky. And I don't know why I came up with this idea. I just thought that it would be really cute and definitely not something you would see every day or any day. But you know what, that's kind of what I like to draw. Sometimes I like to draw things that can't happen or won't exist, because this is, you know, creativity. You can draw things that don't exist because yeah, that's pretty much the cool thing about creating stuff. But anyway, into the art I'm actually doing on the screen right now. I decided I wanted to do a sort of night sky background, and I decided to go and do something which I haven't done in a while actually. I wanted to do a sort of watercolor galaxy background. I have done this previously a few times, and I really do love the effects that you can get with watercolor, especially when you put you know, stars and stuff over the top. The sort of variations in the wet on wet techniques just looks really nice and effective, and that's what I wanted to go for. So other than that, I also drew a moon in the sky because I really wanted a moon in this drawing, just to sort of show that it's definitely the night sky, because, you know, skies have moons. And yeah, I did that with my Copic markers and my pencils. And actually something that I did in this drawing which I haven't done before is I sprayed some workable fixative over the watercolor. If you haven't seen previously, I got a can of workable fixative, and I've been trying that out lately, and to be honest, it's actually quite useful. I wouldn't have realized how useful it actually is. But yeah, I did that so that the highlights with the gel pen would stay nice and crisp and white, and yeah, it worked pretty well. So now you can see me colouring in one of the layers for the characters here. Now I have a few different layers that I wanted to use. I have a main layer for the characters, and then I also have a layer over the top of that, which is the sort of closest part of the aeroplane to you, the wing facing you. And I actually decided to keep the arms on that part, you know how like their arms are sort of covering that part, because I wanted to have that sort of come out as well. And yeah, after that I also got a layer behind them, which is the other part of the aeroplane, if that makes sense, so that there's sort of like a bit of a depth effect, I guess. Now as you can see in this artwork, I actually have some clouds as well, and yeah, I basically just have 2 layers for each cloud, and that's so it sort of like pops out a little bit and looks nice. And with those clouds I decided to shade them with cool greys and a tiny bit of blue, and I basically just kept a sort of gradient effect, making sure that the top parts of the layers were the lightest, and that would contrast really nicely, especially with that sort of layer over the top of the other layer of the clouds. The highlights of that would pop nicely against the shadows. So now is time to cut all of these pieces out individually, and I used a combination of my scissors and my craft knife, and some of the parts of this was a little bit difficult to cut around, mostly the sort of small details with the hair and the dog's fur, and also that really sort of thin part where there's ribbons coming off of the aeroplane. I just kept at it and tried to go slow and you know, concentrated well, and I definitely did not want to rush this, because if I cut off that part I would have to like start again, which would be annoying. But yeah, I'm glad that that actually didn't get screwed up, but yeah, I'm actually quite happy with this. After I cut out those sort of ribbon parts, I had to sort of move the bit around a little bit, and I was very scared of it getting caught on something and ripping those pieces off. However, now that I come to think of it, if I did rip them off, I probably could have like stuck them back together, but you know what, I didn't have to worry about that, so that's good. Now it's time to put all of those little pieces and layers together. It actually looks really cool how I've sort of sat all of the little layers on top of each other. Now the layers underneath do have a sort of rough colouring job, and that is mainly because if you look towards the side you might see it a little bit, and I definitely wanted to sort of get those parts camouflaged. I didn't want just a plain white behind them, so that's why I did that. And now is time to stick it all together. This is the part that I love, where it sort of just comes together, because now that you've got all of those sort of elements, it's time to put it all together and see how it turned out. And I really love this because it's kind of a reveal for me as well, because I'm not 100% sure what it's going to look like on the background with all the different layers, but it's very, very satisfying to see it all come together in front of my eyes. So what I'm using is my Express-It foam mounting squares. I got these at my local art store for about $5 or $6. They're pretty cheap and quite convenient to use. I did a few layers where one of them was a little bit like I added sort of 2, like so that it popped off a lot more, and yeah, I just made sure that I put them in areas that needed more support, so definitely on the corners and around the edges, and 1 or 2 in the middle as well, so that it sort of doesn't bow in. And yeah, these are actually really convenient to use, because if you do make a mistake you can sort of peel it off and it won't rip, but it still sort of holds nice and firmly on there too. So for some of the areas where I stuck it down, I obviously had to cut the foam squares to make them fit, so they wouldn't show off, like you wouldn't see them out of the corners. And yeah, that's actually really easy to cut and stuff too, so that's great. And also for the arms, as I mentioned previously, the kids sort of have their arms coming over onto the next layer. I just used a little bit of double-sided tape to sort of connect the arm to the shoulder. So those arms sort of go from one layer to the other, and that's actually the first time I've done that in one of these sort of drawings. So yeah, I'm actually quite happy with how that turned out. And here I am finally sticking on that last piece, and it's so nice to see it all come together, and I honestly think this drawing turned out way better than I expected, especially with that really nice sort of starry background. I feel like it has a very fantasy sort of vibe, almost like a storybook as well, which I actually really do like. I like that aesthetic a lot, and I think yeah, it was really, really fun to do. So if you guys enjoyed this video, and if you liked it, please comment below and let me know if you did. Also, any ideas if you want me to do this again. And yeah, here is the final result, and I am so happy with it. I don't know, it's got a little bit of a different feel to it, this one. Almost like a sort of, I don't know, I can't explain it. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you hit like and subscribe, and I will see you in my next one. Bye everyone!